Hi, Peter McCarthy here. Just thought I'd take the few minutes of your time to share with you the individual components that make up the Symterra Pulse system. Now, say you just received your design from PestIT. We've gone through all of the idea of where we're going to install the system, the length of the system, and how it's all going to link together. You're now receiving your kit, and this is what you're going to see. Let's review all of the individual components. What I'd like to start with, of course, is probably the most important aspect of things, will be the installation manual. In there will be all the guidelines of how to install the system, but also what to expect when you use certain intervals and how you go about putting all of the individual components together. Now, this is the written manual, but I'll also share with you individual videos on the male and female connections and linking the whole system together. This is just an introduction. So with that, you'll also receive the Symterra specification sheet. This will give you an indication of each of the individual components and essentially just their name and any detail that's important. But even just understanding the name of each of the systems when we're looking at the different support heads, the support spaces and so on, or how the different male and female fittings go together will be important, particularly if I'm offering you some assistance remotely. Okay, so what are you going to receive? Well, your kit is going to look a little bit like this. Well, at least one facet of it is. This is a 30-meter section of all the components and the emitter line that you'll receive when you're receiving your Symterra kit. Now, of course, depending on whether you're getting a 90-meter kit, 120, 150, or 180 lineal meter kit, you'll get a number of these boxes depending on what you've ordered. So essentially, let's go through these really quickly, and I'll take a moment just to show you how some of them go together, and then in subsequent videos, I'll look at connecting these so you see how they go together. So this is just the support base. This will hold the stems that go at regular intervals around the building. Into the support base will go the stem riser, and that riser will be anywhere from 50 millimeters high to 150 millimeters, depending on the situation. So that's the support spacer, and then the support head. And so the support head will actually hold the emitter line. There are also L-shaped connectors, and you would use that if you're going over an edge, perhaps on a parapet or building edge or over an air conditioning system, to give you not only some projection of the emitter line upwards, but also outwards. In the system too, you're going to see fittings a little bit fiddly, and hence I'm going to create some videos to show you how these go together. So essentially you'll have a male connector and a female connector, and they'll go together like this, and that will actually connect, one emitter line to the next emitter line, or will also help you with branching off when I have a single emitter line then heading off to, two different directions. Inside each of these connections will be bushings. There'll be essentially a male, we've got both males there and it's easy to do, but we have a male and female bushing. So inside these plastic connections will be the terminals that link the whole system together. So here is a female bushing and then a male bushing, and inside essentially the plastic outer casing will be how they all link together. Now, what they're all linking together, of course, is the emitter line. The emitter line is a 30-meter line that will link to your Symterra hub and then go off around your parapets and roof edges and peaks and architectural features. All right. And so 30 meters will link onto the next 30 meters and to the next 30 meters and so on. And of course, that will also link to the vital component of the system, which of course is the Symterra hub. Now, before we get to that, we have a number of other different fittings that will all link together, and then eventually terminate. And so there's just a simple little cap that will go over a female connector to terminate your line. But then we'll go and have a look at different videos to show you how each of these components go together. Here is the emitter, the Symterra hub. So the Symterra hub is a waterproof casing, 240 volt, 3-prong plug for Australia and New Zealand. And then you'll have the line out, which will basically be your female fitting that'll go onto this male that will link to your emitter line. And then that will then head off to the next 30 meters and so on. And then there's also a grounding point. That grounding point is very important for the correct usage of the Symterra Pulse system. And you will link this line to, an air conditioning system support or a cable tray or another grounded point on your roof or building facade. We'll look at that also in subsequent videos. Okay, just a couple of extra components or optional items. So first of all, we're going to need a very good quality crimping tool to be able to connect all the bushings that are inside each of these components. In addition to that, you'll also need a Symterra testing meter, and that will actually help test the output of your system and give you an indication in terms of distance and strength to determine whether you're getting the optimal output of the system or whether you need to make some adjustments. And particularly once you're doing a lot of connections and branching, that will actually reduce the output of your system. And so the idea is you can minimize those sorts of processes. A couple of other components which I think are important to use with the Symterra system. Firstly, we've got the AvePro support. This is essentially a design from another system of PestITs to add some strength to the corners and regular intervals throughout your job to improve the wind resistance and overall strength of the system. Essentially, the emitter line will either pass through this or be strengthened, and I'll show you how that is done in subsequent videos. And lastly, the use of AvePro Gotta Go. This is essentially a cleaning concentrate, or in this case, a ready-to-use product to spray over your project for the cleaning. One, in order to make sure that your job is safe for you to work within, but also, to clean off the messy and disease-carrying aspects and the dangerous hazards associated with bird droppings. But also one of the things that we've talked about perhaps in other videos and discussions, and that's to remove the scent signature that the birds have that help them link and be committed to this particular site. So birds, young birds in the nest create a signature with their parents, with the nest, with the roost, and they use that as part of their important navigation to return back to that site every day. So birds will use site cues, so their own site. They'll obviously be using odor or their olfactory mechanism of using the scent to actually navigate back to the location. And they'll also be using the Earth's magnetic field, which obviously is something that Symterra impacts dramatically as part of the whole process. But I can't stress enough that you need to clean every site in order to maximize what you're trying to achieve with Symterra. So when we're finishing off, lastly, I'm going to bring you back to the instructions. Take a moment to read this thoroughly well before you get to the job. Make sure you've got the right tools, understand the guidelines of how the installation is done, the limitations of each of the systems and the intervals, all very important. Helps you link with the videos that I will be creating, with the support that we offer with design, and then it also means that you can ring up and we can talk about the individual terminology of each components and know what we're both talking about. Anyway, thanks for joining me.